Call the meeting to order. Need someone to make a motion to approve the minutes from last. Can't do that. We don't have a quorum. Okay. Let's just move along. Okay, so.
Recap of the budget meeting.
Yeah, was it 2 weeks ago? Okay,
Yeah.
same time. Okay, 2 weeks ago, the CRB, we had a budget meeting in front of the Common Council, and Renee spoke eloquently, and some of the topics she talked about. First of all, she reviewed the CRB Acknowledgement Week. She moved on to making requests for software for case management, so we can provide an interface for community and make it easier for the board members to review the cases. Additional office staff people, one more addition to assist in the investigative part, another community engagement person, and a policy and analysis person. And she also made an additional funding request for independent security, which seemed to take up most of the meeting. And basically, we're asking for 1% of the police budget, which is on par for our peer communities. And we were expecting our new member, who's not here, and
That's it.
it's you. That's
All
it.
right. So, they can't hear you. Can you hear me? Okay. So, thank you everyone for being here. Short report. We had one new case to come in the month of April, which was the first time, I think, since I've been here for us to only have one case to come in. And we were supposed to review 6 cases in executive session. And we'll move along to the committee reports. I have to make a change. Under government relations, Sue Katzoff will be at our June meeting, and so also will our counsel Ryan Susser. He will be at the June meeting. We do have in the audience the Chief Accountability Officer, Jawad. If he wanted to just take a moment, introduce yourself, and then we'll schedule some other time.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jawad Rashid, and I have recently been hired by the City of Syracuse to be the Chief Accountability Officer for the Syracuse Police Department. I asked Ms. Renford for the opportunity just to meet you, to introduce myself to you, to let you know what my program is and why I'm here, and hopefully that we can find some ways in trying to make a better quality of life for the citizens of this city. I'm an attorney by trade, former family court, first a city court judge in Rochester, a family court magistrate in Syracuse and Utica, and for over 30 years, and did private work as well, private legal work prior to going on the bench. I've done extensive research into police departments, police reform, worked with 3 or 4 different police departments throughout New York State, Buffalo, Utica, Rochester, and I'm hoping that my tour of duty here will help implement police reform on a meaningful and significant level. That is my job, and I hope to do that in a transparent and a very accountable way. So, any questions?
I have questions.
Yes, ma'am.
You didn't tell us what it is that you do. What are you bringing to the table
Okay.
as the chief?
As under the title of Chief Accountability Officer, I was given 3 marching orders. First, it should be noted that I am actually in the police department's administrative staff area. I work directly with Chief Cecil and the 4 deputy chiefs. So I'm at every meeting, every decision, every review. So I'm intricately involved in their process since February of this year. The marching orders basically are twofold. One, the implementation of the mayor's executive order for police reform and all that entails, those 16, if I recall, 16 points. Two, the governor's executive order for police reform, which has about 46 different points to it. And then third, to not only hold the police accountable and the implementation of police reform, but to work with the community, within the community, to build trust and to build bridges so that we can address the differences and try to come up with resolutions. I think that one of the reasons why I was interested in the position is I'm result-oriented. I'm very resolution-oriented, and that's what my goal is, to not keep the status quo, but to have changes, and that's on both sides. That's changes within the police department where it's warranted, whether it's methodology, whether it's implementation, training, hiring, firing, the whole nine, and also to find mechanisms and ways to build trust within our community. I've lived in Syracuse for 10 years, from 2004 or 5 to 2013. And worked intricately with a number of Syracuse organizations. I was one of the founders of the 100 Black Men here in Syracuse. Worked with The Good Life. I've worked with Hassan for many years. I've worked with a number of organizations trying to improve the quality of life, which is my number one concern.
So
I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, I do. What do you see as the biggest problems with the police department's accountability?
Well, I've been on the job for about 3 months, and the first thing I've done is a thorough review of the policies, procedures, and many of the regulations of the Syracuse Police Department, and doing comparisons with those with other police departments, hopefully progressive police departments. That's number one. The second thing I do is start looking at the practice. I'm meeting with each and every of the division heads. I'm attending roll calls. I start to talk with the rank and file this month. So I'm going to take the time to actually investigate how they do things, other than just from the policy and procedural perspective, looking at how things are actually done. So I can't answer your question with any kind of thoroughness, but I can just say from the onset, for the last 3 months that I've been involved, obviously for me, and having again done this work before, I have a real good background, and knowing that the biggest issues have always been not the policies, because you can clean up policies, you can clean up procedures. The biggest issues have always been the culture. How do you change culture? And that's a culture of a people, of an institution, of organizations. We all have different cultures being the way in which we implement our daily lives. And I think therein going to lie the pudding. How do we look at and analyze the culture of policing as a whole, and then specifically in Syracuse? And I think that's what I have to take my deep dive into.
Do you have any ideas how to change that culture? Because it's pretty deeply
well. There's been a number of examples across the country, and I do have some hopefully ideas that they're not my ideas. I wouldn't claim that, but other cities are doing. There's examples, all over the country, and hopefully we'll be able to implement those that we think will work here in Syracuse.
Could you name one?
Sure.
Could you name one? What are they?
Well, the first thing in changing a culture is you have to identify what the current culture is and identify why it's not working. And then you look at why it's not working, and you try to implement something that's a counterculture to that. So I think as a matter of tactics, it's a tried and true process, but it's not going to happen overnight. It obviously takes time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
I have another question. So your third marching order, you said, was to bridge the gap with the community.
That's one of them. Yes, ma'am.
Can you share with me how
Sure.
you plan on doing that?
Yes, ma'am. I can tell you what steps we've taken thus far. I think that in order to have a realistic chance at having the community change their perception, because I'm an old man, and I know that the years have taught me that perception 9 out of 10 times is reality. What people perceive is what they really believe is happening. So you have to deal with the perception of people, and the only way to do that is to roll up your sleeves and work with the people. So I've met with, so far, 11 different not-for-profit organizations, about 10 inner-city organizations. They're all inner-city organizations, Hispanic organizations, African-American organizations, LGBT plus organizations, setting up meetings with them, setting up discussions, open discussions, trying to find out what's their perception. Once we understand what that perception is, then we have to all take a dose of reality. And reality has always been a hard pill, whether you're trying to get the police to understand the realities of their practices, or whether you're trying to get a community to understand the realities of policing. So, for instance, on, I believe it's June 20th, maybe? Don't hold me to that date. Via the 100 Black Men, we set up a open discussion for the community on gun violence and police reform. I'll be dealing with that. We're setting up one with The Good Life. We're dealing with teenagers and at-risk youth, the same types of discussions. We're hoping to open up areas and safe spaces for the community to have. I believe you always have to have safe spaces to have difficult conversations. So difficult conversations are good, because that means you're talking about something meaningful, but we have to create the spaces in order to have those conversations. So that's my goal, initially, in terms of changing the community. You have to get out there, you have to make yourself available, and you have to set up these different types of cross-cultural discussions, hard discussions. Yes, ma'am.
With the different cities that you worked in, whether it was Rochester, Utica, or Buffalo, did you participate in any of those cities in regards to what it is you're trying to do in Syracuse?
Yes, ma'am. In Utica, I was part of the team. There was 3 teams, and I was part of 2 of them that drafted the police reform for the city of Utica and the county of Oneida, and through painstaking meetings and discussions, and we did form through the, and I also I was a founder of the Black Leadership Coalition in Utica, and so they were an integral part of that, and so we formed a platform for police reform. And we had our battles with the city's police department over implementation. And we ended up sending 2 different versions to the governor. And the governor, of course, did a hybrid. So we had impact on the actual design of the police reform in Utica, New York. And if I hadn't taken this job, I would have been part of implementation. But I saw an ability to have a larger impact for a larger community here in Syracuse.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
Well,
Good.
I thank you for this opportunity. I truly believe that that there's a lot of overlapping between what you do, the service you provide to the city, and the constituency, and my mission. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to work together on certain things, on issues that we can't work together, that we have to be adversarial. I'm totally convinced that it doesn't have to be. Just because it's adversarial doesn't mean it has to be negative. So I'm looking forward to working with the CRB in every way that I can, and helping you obtain some of your goals and objectives, because some of your goals and objectives are going to be some of mine. Thank you.
We appreciate you coming. So, hopefully, maybe this will be a regular gig. Maybe we'll get you back. No, seriously. We'll have you come by some.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
We'd love to see you.
I would gladly do that.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. That's pretty much it.
Okay. So we're good. Public comment? Stopper? Anything?
Any public comments? Okay. The only other thing would be community outreach and public education. We're continuing to develop new programs for which the CRB can participate in. We have several things coming up in which we will send you out information about. We were, doing things at the Boys and Girls Club. We have those on deck. They had one yesterday, actually, and they continue to develop those things. And we'll just keep you posted and send you. I know calendar invites don't work, so what we'll do is send you an email of the events that are coming up. And then, again, we just ask that if you can find a place that's in your Common Council district that you would like us to do something at, then we would greatly appreciate that for an open door. So, that's it.
Okay. Where we are?
I just
Yes.
have one thing I
Sure.
wanted to say. I didn't physically sit in this room, but I watched it on YouTube, and I just want to give kudos to you. You did very well
Thank you.
at that
Budget meeting?
budget meeting.
Let's second that.
Very, very, very well. Very
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem. And then my other question is, are we on tape?
Yes.
Never mind.
Yeah.
All right. In your folders tonight, I'll just say that there were several policies that I had sent in an email in response to the cases that we reviewed last time in executive session. We made copies of them so that you can take those home and have them. So take them out of your folders so that you can have them to review. And then we'll be ready for next month's executive session. I mean, we'll send an email and see if there's any way to hold a executive session virtually. We might be able to do that, but it would be helpful if you had those and reviewed those prior to. So, yes, there are a lot of policies, but it was the gamut of things that were in the cases that we talked about and things moving forward.
Okay.
All right? So thank you all very much for your time.
All righty.
All right.
Meeting adjourned?
Meeting adjourned.
Adjourn.
Okay.